friends. Go ahead, John. Pick some of your friends. Tell me what they've got to say.
Okay, this is from SG Sports Talk Channel. Hacksaw, what are your top 5 MLB stadiums from best to worst?
Well, I would say the obviously Pitts has to be Oakland A's, and that's why they're going to Las Vegas. That's just an awful facility. There've been so many new ones that have been built. I think, and I like Petco a great deal, and Petco has done so much to be a catalyst for the rebirth of the Gaslamp Quarter and the East Village. I think the best sightlines in baseball are PNC Park in Pittsburgh, because it is built looking towards the Ohio River, and you see all the bridges and the skyline of Pittsburgh downtown. It is absolutely beautiful. Cincinnati Stadium, where the Reds play, Great American Ballpark, is built right on the river, and it looks through the skyline onto the Ohio River. Beautiful. Camden Yards was one of the first rebuilt parks, and that is still, I've never been there, but it is still a very fashionable place. If you like history, obviously, all things Yankee Stadium, Monument Park beyond the fences in center field, it's just really special. Obviously, the history will write Wrigley Field, the Ivy. History will write Fenway Park. You walk through the tunnels in Boston up to the old yard, and the first thing you see is the green grass. It's beautiful. And then you see the green monster. It just stands out. It hits you right in the face. So there's a lot of great places. But I would say Oakland and the erector set mess that is Tampa Bay have to be two of the worst stadiums in baseball. But there have been so many new stadiums built and other stadiums retrofitted that are kind of cool.
Well, I grew up as a Giants fan going to Candlestick Park.
You were cold every Thursday.
Yeah. We used to get tickets, like if you got good grades at school, you got free tickets. And we go there like in July and August and just freeze to death. It was just ridiculous back then. But, the AT&T, or it's Oracle Park now in San Francisco, is beautiful. Another great sightline park. Our family, we took a trip back east about 10 years ago. We went to Fenway into Yankee Stadium, and we were in the new Yankee Stadium, and it felt kind of sterile, but boy, when you were at Fenway Park, I mean, the energy there was very different than the Yankee Stadium. I mean, it was just so much buzz, so much love, so much partying going on. And then of course, Sweet Caroline comes out in the 8th inning and all that. I mean, what a great environment that is. But I think it's really neat how people have these bucket list things where they visit every stadium and check a box. I think that's terrific.
Yeah. I think one of the strangest stadiums is in Arizona. When they opened that, I thought, this is really going to be special, this Dome Stadium. It's called Chase Field now. I walked in there, first time I went to a game there, it was like a baseball game played in a shopping mall.
I agree. Yes.
There was neon everywhere, stores everywhere, restaurants everywhere. It was like playing baseball in North County Fair, yeah. our big shopping center here in Escondido. To me, it was the strangest feel I ever had. Okay, on we go. Next question.
Okay, let's move on down the list, and let's get Emmanuel in here. And Emmanuel Nahara says, I guess the Padres should really invest in developing pitchers and not rely on only offensive. Look at the Dodgers, and their pitching staff is hit by injury, but they have arms in the minor leagues to step up.
How about this kid, Bobby Miller? You and I have talked extensively on our podcast about 5 young pitchers who are all at Oklahoma City, and they've had to rush him to the front now just because of so many injuries. Bobby Miller in his major league debut the other night, 101 miles an hour, 5 innings, 1 run allowed, and he's going to stay in the rotation. So he's there. There's another kid, Gavin Stone, that they really like. He's been roughed up a little bit. Again, they've kind of forced him to the front of the line. The Padres had pitching. Padres had a lot of good young players. Padres have traded, last I counted, Padres have traded away 41 prospects since A.J. Preller took over. 41.
That's
every mega deal he's made has included real blue chippers. And now, if you go back and look at the names that went to Washington at the deadline last year for Juan Soto,
oh yeah,
you get dizzy thinking about that. I'll tell you a sidebar story. I talked to somebody in Washington last night, and Juan Soto has responded very well during his 3-game series to the fans. There's kind of a love thing going on back and forth with Soto. There was not a lot of bitterness that the guy left. Washington Nationals are about to be sold, and the rumor out there is that whoever comes in to buy this thing is going to be A, well-heeled financially,
Mhm.
and B, is going to make a run at Juan Soto if Juan Soto goes on the open market as a free agent. And I think that rumor's kind of circulated along the
Oh, that's
Beltway.
interesting.
I think that's why he was received so warmly in Washington rather than you refused 440 million and you left our franchise and screwed us and look where we are as a franchise now. I think that's the rationale as to why there was such a warm feeling that there were rumors around the Beltway that whoever's coming in to buy this thing from the Lerner family going to go after him.
Well, imagine if the Nationals got that truckload of prospects from the Padres
And got Soto back.
and got Soto back. They got the whole thing. I mean, Mackenzie Gore is going to have a great career. CJ Abrams shows us a lot. And then, I'm trying to remember some of the names of the kids in the minors.
Well, there was a young slugging outfielder that was part of that equation.
Yeah.
He's in the minor leagues right now.
And there was another hitter that was, really good for average. And I think there was this pitcher, I think his name was Susanna, that could throw like 100 miles an hour. So, 4 or 5 years down the road, watch out for the Nationals. And oh my God, if they added Soto, that'd be something.
You'd be unbearable. Holy cow. Would you even show up to do the show if that happened?
I don't know, man. I might have to convert. We'll see.
On we go. Next question.
All right. Let's this is actually a fun comment here from TR Krellin. He goes, from the shores of Lake Erie to SoCal. Great to find you again.
Actually, it's from Baja to the Canadian Rockies, but I'll accept you. When I was doing I did 2.5 years of weekends on Sirius XM's home plate channel, the baseball channel, and I loved it. And I had no idea what I was getting involved in, and I didn't understand satellite radio, and now obviously I do. And we had people from everywhere across Canada and across the United States, and I started to do the same shtick from Maine to Maui, from the Sunshine State to the Pacific Northwest. And then we started the thing with truck drivers because I was doing a late night show coming out of games. I do 3 hours on Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night on the MLB channel. And it was really cool. And then truck drivers started to call in. And then I started the shtick. Where are you going? What are you hauling? Truck drivers, check in. I want to talk to you. And they just jam the thing all hours of the day. It'd be 4 a.m. in Grand Banks, Newfoundland, and get some guy hauling lumber who's a Yankee fan or a Red Sox fan, and he's calling me and talking to me while he's on the interstate. It was fascinating. So yeah, we developed some stuff to include everybody regardless of where they were.
I know. I just think it's so great. All these people sort of rediscovering you online, and it's just opened up so many good feelings, because we all loved you back in the day at 690
Well, not
Tiny.
everybody.
Well, there
loved
were a
me.
few detractors, but overall, it's great to have you online. I think it's just terrific.
Yeah. So, hey, everybody's on Fans Forum. We need you to, quote, share the message that Hacksaw is back, broadcasting in the studio while John is out in left field with some of his opinions. Okay, move on. Next question.
All right, let's get some of these YouTube commenters involved here. And here's one from Arizona Joe talking about Coach Prime. He says, Lee, I believe Dion will blow up in Colorado's face. Getting a college football team together is like marshaling a 110-troop army. A turnover of 72 players is ridiculous, even for the transfer portal NIL era. A squad needs continuity and chemistry. Also, would not be vetting the 60-plus replacements would be a Herculean task before fall camp. That's a recipe for big problems that will Bling will not solve.
Well, I do trust that the offense will be tailored to his son Shedrick, who had a great couple of years at Jackson State. But as I said on our past podcast earlier this week, you can win at Jackson State in the SWAC in the HBUC era if you got 5 or 6 quality players. But you're in the Pac-12 and you're playing Oregon and Southern Cal and UCLA, and their numbers of great players are huge. And I agree with you, obviously, that it's tough, Joe, to bring that many new pieces in and fit them in such short order. But the fact that they got the quarterback to build the offense around what Prime's son can do at quarterback, that's going to be hard, though, because you got so many new pieces. They gotta fit together. And you're playing Oregon and Washington and the Trojans and the Bruins who've been together for years and have continuity. So I think it's really going to be hard. I don't think they'll go 1-11, but I don't think they're going to set the world on fire because they're playing big boy football. They're not playing Jackson State versus Mississippi Valley State.
Well, I'm anxious to see who he recruits because there's going to be a lot of players that want to play for Dion, and it's going to be must see TV. I mean, this is going to be great, and I think Deion Sanders is a special guy. The way that he can fire up his team, he gets them emotional, and he really gets them focused on the important things in life. I think Prime could really be a transformative figure in college football. So I'm a big fan of him. I'm rooting for him.
Would you say the same thing if they get beat 49-13 by somebody that's really in grudge mode for what he did to all those kids at CU that he ran off?
Yeah, well, I mean, no one wants to see a team lose 49-13, and he might get his hat handed to him on a few of these games. But overall, I think him coming into the Pac-12 is good overall for the sport. Colorado, well, they only won one game. If they win 3 games, that's a huge improvement.
Yeah, I concur. I mean, I thought it was a good hire in terms of making a statement and an impact and creating big time buzz. Next question.
Okay, we've got some Dodger comments here. This is from Joey Yarbrough. It says, hey, everyone knows that the Dodgers are going to go all in for Shohei Ohtani. You get Walker Buehler back full strength next year, then check the price tag on Julio Urias. Maybe you let him walk depending on how the kids turn out, Miller and Stone.
Well, understand the Dodgers are well below the luxury tax. They did that intentionally this year. I mean, they're renting all these vets. J.D. Martinez has looked like that's a pretty good investment. David Peralta, he's had some good games, etc. Syndergaard has just not shown the flash that he showed with the New York Mets. But these guys are all on short-term contracts, so there will be some turnover. And I agree with you that they will go after Showtime, and it'll be a huge challenge. Now, that being said, Angels are having a pretty good year. Look at the record. Look at what Phil Nevin has done. I mean, they've gotten better in the pitching staff.
Mm-hmm.
The guys that they've rented, the Hunter Renfroes and the Brandon Drurys of the world, are hitting better. Outside of Rendon getting hurt again, everybody else has stayed healthy. Trout has bounced back. Shohei has just been phenomenal as a DH, and obviously what he's doing on the mound. I mean, enjoy this. We're never probably ever going to see this again from a multi-position player the way Ohtani is playing right now. But there's going to be bidding war. And I obviously think Dodgers, Angels, I think the Yankees are going to be part of this mix. I don't know if the Mets are going to be because of all the contracts that they've given out. And, you know, there's a lot of theories that the Padres should be part of it, but I just don't know from a dollar value how much money's left in Peter Seidler's checking account.
Well, maybe the new owner of the Nationals. I mean, if he's willing to give Soto more than 440, he might want to give Shohei Ohtani 600. You never know.
But the Showtime want to leave the West Coast. I think that's a piece of this equation, which is why Dodger Stadium sure makes an awful lot of sense. And they got great heritage with players from the Pacific Rim. I mean, you just go back in the last 20 years at all the great players the Dodgers have signed who have had success, who came from Japan, came from Korea, came from Taiwan.
Well, I think Hideo Nomo was probably one of the first ones.
Exactly. All right, move on. Next question here.
Moving on. This is another interesting one about sports talk from Dick Ellis. And he says, there is a difference between the Northeast cities, New York, Philly, Boston, and Southern California. The sports stations back east are much more aggressive and willing to criticize local teams when they think it's appropriate. In SoCal, radio hosts tend to be homers. Adding to the fans back east are more critical and outspoken. When I travel back east on business, I always tuned into sports because I love to hear the passion and comments between hosts and callers. I rarely hear that on local stations here. There are some nice things about SoCal people being laid back, but lively sports shows is not one of them. This is not a shot at you, Hacksaw, but I believe it applies to the majority of sports shows in Southern California.
Well, you're right, Dick. There's a lot of crackpots as talk show hosts on the Eastern Seaboard. I enjoy it. When I go back there, I listen to WFAN in New York. I listen to IP in Philadelphia. I listen to WEEI in Boston. When I was up in Maine last week on vacation. They're different. I think the most unique things about the marketplaces is Southern California is a melting pot. Everybody came here from somewhere else, you know. Whether you got deported from the Bay Area or I used to be in Cleveland or Phoenix, a lot of people come from other places and they still have emotional attachments to the Cubs or the Red Sox or Tigers or whomever. Back there, if you're still there, you're a Cubs fan because your dad was a Cubs fan, because his grandpa was a Cubs fan. It goes back decades upon decades. So there's a different mentality and culture because that's the team we grew up with. Back here, you can become a Dodger fan, but you still might have an emotional attachment. You might be a White Sox fan from Comiskey Park. But these people here have come, for the most part, from other places. And in terms of sports talk radio, it's just a different era now because there's so much out there. I go back when we did the history of sports talk radio. I think the one defining thing that I said separated us 690 from them, whatever's on the radio now in San Diego at the Fan or at 760 or whatever's on and up in Los Angeles. The one defining thing is we were one of the first to do it. And we did it, and we grabbed you by the shirt collar, and we dragged you into the radio every day at 4 o'clock to listen to the best 15 minutes in radio because there was nobody else on. And now there's lots of stations. A lot of people try to do it. And a lot of people doing absurd things. There's, quote, a lot of noise out there. But FAN, Mike and the Mad Dog, and IP, and EEI in Boston, and Extra 690. We were the first ones. We had the markets to ourselves, and this is who we were.
It is interesting when I travel. I do the same thing. I'll listen to other sports talk shows. The other thing I notice that's different is the play-by-play guys, where in a lot of the big cities, their play-by-play guys are kind of flat line. They're traditional and conservative. We're here in San Diego, and we've got Orsillo and Mark Grant, and they're having a party up there in the booth. I mean, it's a very different vibe there as well. So is it cultural? I think it is. I think to your point, everyone in SoCal is from somewhere else, and they've got a connection. And boy, if you're like a Philly fan, I mean, yet you live and eat and breathe Philly sports. It's like a religion, right?
They boo a lot, all the time. All right, let's move on. A couple more here before we wrap up our Thursday podcast.
Okay, we've got a Lakers comment here. This is from Instagram, Don Williams. He says, hey, real talk. If the Lakers try to sign Kyrie Irving, that will be a mistake. He makes teams worse.
All you need to do is look at his resume. Failed in Dallas, failed badly in Brooklyn. They blew everybody out. Failed in Boston prior to that. He wanted out of Cleveland, could not play and live with King James. What makes you think, based on his history, that he would work in LA with the Lakers? Secondly, Lakers have no cap space. Lakers have no draft picks. And Dallas wants to keep Kyrie, and they think Kyrie and Luka Doncic can make it come together, though the record between them when they played together in Dallas down the stretch after the trade deadline deal, they're supposed to make the season work, went 5-12. Great talent. Great deal of problems down the road. You'll know he'll score. He will distribute the ball. And you also know, based on past track record, check off all those boxes where he's been, there's going to be problems. Why would you do this?
Yeah, I agree. You can't go for Kyrie, but I think the Lakers, they're back against the wall. They're in a corner. I mean, there's not much they can really do. I mean, what's LeBron's contract? I mean, is it a year to year at this point? Or
he's got two left.
Two left.
Starts at 47. He's not going to retire.
No.
But you got LeBron and you got AD, and now they really believe that they found something in Austin Reeves, and I think he's a really good young player.
Yeah. And
they think Rui Hachimura had his moments where he played really well, and he's getting a lot more minutes here than he got in Washington. So that's 4. I don't keep D'Angelo Russell. I don't know what to make of the rest of the guys on the bench because they're just guys. Yeah, they'll hit some threes along the way. Lonnie Walker had one good game. Well, how many games the Lakers play this year? So I just don't know that the back end is going to make a difference. What I think would be unique, if they could go find a veteran free agent who's never been able to win a ring, has been stagnated somewhere else, lure him here on an affordable contract of maybe 8 to 10 million, because you're going to get the chance to play with King James and with AD and maybe be the third wheel, and you get the chance to get a ring. Maybe that's the way they can do it, because they can't make trades. They have no assets to trade. There are no draft picks left. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants. Everybody's got fringe players. Why would you want the Lakers 6th through 10th fringe player on their roster who's never shown any consistency? So that to me is the only thing I think they could do. Who would that be? I don't know. Would it be Draymond Green, free agent? But somebody like that that can come in and has still got miles left on the odometer that can make a difference.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. I mean, some names I was going through my head. The young man that's up in Portland, was it Damian Lillard? Is it Lillard or
Yeah,
Lillard?
Lillard, but he's got a multi-year contract. He wants to stay up there.
Yeah,
He's urging them to go be a player and go get some more names around us.
right. And so I mean, yeah, and Portland wants to build around someone. I mean, who do they? They don't really have anyone besides him. So yeah, I'm sure Rob Pelinka is trying to figure out a way to find the right guy to plug in. And I bet you LeBron is in his ear as well, telling him who to go get.
Very much so. I mean, last year was fascinating what they did at the deadline, how the Darvin Ham was able to mold it and get it deep. I mean, I walked away the other night and I thought, okay, so how do I view Laker basketball? Disaster because they didn't get to the finals, or geez, they did get to the West Finals and they fixed the thing, and they fought a really good team into the fourth quarter every one of those games.
They did.
When losing to Denver. So I don't know that they're that far away, but I do know this: the window is really small
Yeah,
because of the age factor and
Yeah.
the injury factor to the top two stars. Hey, listen, we hope you've